Hello everyone, it's Vaeaea again, and I am bringing you another tutorial. This time I will be covering the Play with Flash, which will be found on the Theral.net website. So if you don't have a client of your own, like Mush or Portal or CMUD to play AU, you can just come to our website and click on the Play with Flash. It will open a new tab, and it will bring you to this beast. It's pretty big. It doesn't really bother me because I have a fairly big screen. For those of you with smaller screens, I'm sorry you can't resize it. At least when you get into the mud, you only need this section. You don't need the extra commands up here. Unless it disconnects, then you have to click connect, but no big. So when you first get into this, the editor, this is, I believe, for people who mess with the coding portion of the client and things like that. I've never messed with it, so I don't know what it does. Next, the settings. This you want to mess with before you play. It will affect the output on the screen, and so you don't want your words all spaced funny, and yeah, it can mess with you pretty bad. So when you open up the settings, the first thing you'll notice is the font, and it starts out with Aharoni. I always change to Courier New. The font size is stock set at 14. I drop it to 12. 14 works, especially if you change it from Aharoni, because you don't want big spacey script, because it will mess up with the lines and the word wrap and everything. So depending on what font you want, it will affect what size you want as well. So you can play around with that and see what comes up. Handy little commands to change how things happen, like echo commands. Getting rid of that means they won't stay on your line, your command line and things. If you mess around with this stuff, it's pretty quick to figure out what it all does, and I don't think you don't need to mess with it, so I'm not going to go into it right now. The buffer size, this sadly only goes up to 1,000. The buffer is how far back the client will scroll to check previous lines. And with this client, since the scroll back is limited to only 1,000, you are definitely going to want to keep a piece of paper handy or notepad open up on your computer so that you can save your quest that you've been given, because it really stinks to be halfway to your quest and you realize you have forgotten what item you were supposed to retrieve or what mob you're supposed to kill, and you have no way to check except for QI. But for things such as killing a mob to get an item off of them, the QI, which is the quest information, doesn't show the mob you're supposed to kill to get that item. So it's just handy to be prepared and have your thing written down on the side, especially with this Flash client. Colors obviously change what colors show up for, colors in the mud. So if you want to mess with that, have fun. I don't see a point in messing with it personally, but I could see how people could enjoy messing with it. Aliases, these are the abbreviated things that you send the mud to have a command sent. It'll make sense when I show it to you. So to make a new alias, you go down to New, and it pops up a template. You want to set the pattern, and you double click to edit each of these subjects. I'm going to start out with Fairy Fire. So when I want Fairy Fire to be sent to the mud, all I have to type is FF, and then I enter it, and the mud will send the command. To set what the command is, you go under Send, double click, cast Fairy Fire. Now really quick, when you have spells that involve 2 words, you want to put an apostrophe on each side, because if you don't, it will read the first word for the spell and the second word as the target. And it's a really low chance that your target is going to be named the same thing as, the second word in the spell. So just be sure to use apostrophes when you're using 2-word spells. You want to set it as enabled so that it actually works. The name, you don't have to name this stuff. I'll show you what that does in a second. Priority, regular expression, script, and multi. I don't know what they do. So obviously they're not really important to getting the basics of using this client to play. So for name and group, let me just make a couple more things so I can show you what they do. So for group, if you click on it up here and you have each of these titled, it will just change it around so that similarly named items will be placed together, and also alphabetically, obviously. And the same thing goes for name. Next, we will move on to triggers. This means that when a line from the MUD is recognized by your client, a command will be sent in reply. So, go down to new. For the pattern, I will use "you are thirsty." And what I want sent, this will be based, if you do the "you are thirsty," this will be based on the item that your character most commonly drinks out of. Everyone starts with a canteen, and you can get other drinkable items later on in the game. There's also fountains all throughout Nerlin and Theral in general. So you want to drink from whatever is, Anyway, that's not important right now. So I'm pretty sure this is the same as Mush Client, CMUD, and other clients I've used. And when you enter onto a new line when typing out the command, it will enter the same command twice. So I have 3 drink decas for drink decanter. And so my character will drink 3 times when it's fired by the "you are thirsty" pattern from the MUD. Enabled, of course, makes it work. Name and group work exactly the same as it does in aliases. It just organizes them by their title. Priority, regular expression, script, and multi. Again, sorry, I don't know what they do. Gag, that makes it so that the command doesn't pop up after it's been entered, so you won't see it. It just makes it happen. So if it bothers you to see when a command is automatically sent to a MUD, then you can just gag it and it won't show up. Macros are tied into your numpad on your computer, and they're already set. They're set basically for directions, looking, and that's it, directions and looking. If you want to mess with these, feel free. I don't use the numpad when I'm in game, so no big deal there. And also, when you use all of these, you will want to save. Save the log will save all your settings for the MUD. And then I believe you have to save the aliases, triggers, and macros separately from not only the preferences, but from each other. And then each time you play, you have to load them. It's just like any other saving and loading on your computer, so there's no reason to explain that. You can choose where it saves to, so it's easier for you to find later, and you can immediately get into gaming and everything. So we've covered that. Help. That just pops up a little thing that gives you a website to go and search for help yourself. Now, just to look at the MUD client, because that's really all the meat that is there to go over. Yep, the spacing looks right. Everything looks right. Some people are on, that's cool. Yeah, the spacing looks fine other than right here. But I'll just let that slide because it's a very minor, the bank gold should be over here underneath the gold and silver. But obviously there's something messed up in the settings that's making this word wrap down to the next line. And personally, I'll let that slide, even though it does kind of bother me. Anyway, I only have 30 seconds left to cover stuff. I hope I did an all right job explaining the Flash client. There's not much there to explain. It's pretty straightforward. If you've ever used a client before, you will have an easy time figuring this out. If you don't have your own client, this comes in handy to use to play. And we hope to see you around on AU. Thanks, and see you later.